Let's talk now to Vanessa Friend, Head of Family Law at Hodge, Jones and Allen. Vanessa, a very good afternoon from us. Can you tell us the legal perspective of this? What is a postnup agreement?
So a postnup is effectively the same as a prenuptial agreement, except that you're already married. So to provide you with the same legal protection. The challenge is, of course, that because you are married, you already have legal rights. So if one person decides not to sign it, then you can't resolve those issues between you. So it's preferable to have a prenuptial agreement. But of course, people aren't always aware that they need one. They may come too late to the process. So I would say that postnups fall into two broad categories: those people that intended to have a prenup but didn't get round to it in time, and those like Alice that during the course of their marriage realised that it would be beneficial to them.
How many people do you see who want a prenup these days?
A lot. There's a huge increase. I would say at the moment my practice over the summer is dominated by preparing prenuptial agreements, whereas 5 years ago that wouldn't have been the case. So there's been a huge increase.
And what about postnups? How many of those do you see?
I would say postnups are still less common, but is certainly on the increase, because as people come to understand the value of a prenup, then those that are already married start to recognise the value of a postnup.
OK, so can you unpack for us a little bit the point that you made about the fact that if you have got married, you are held within a settlement recognised by the law and by society, and where a postnup therefore lies in regard to that?
So once you're married, you've got legal claims against each other as a husband and wife. So if you wanted to separate or divorce, then you would be able to activate those claims. The purpose of a postnup is to sort of say, well, at the end of the marriage, this is what we want to happen. So effectively, you're saying these are your claims, but we're agreeing that this will happen. For example, you might have a second home, and if you didn't have a postnup, the court might say, well, that second home, because you've used it together, even though one of you held it before the marriage, that should now be shared between you. With a postnup, you might say, we know that's what the law would do, but what we want to do is say that actually my husband keeps that second home because it was always in his family. So effectively, you're just deciding what the settlement will look like rather than leaving it to the discretion of the court.
And if you do then get divorced, does having a postnup form the basis of the divorce settlement, or could you start arguing completely different things when you get divorced?
And that always goes to the heart of the value of prenups and postnups, is will they be upheld? And the answer is yes, if they're properly prepared. And actually at the moment, the government is doing a very wide consultation about whether we should have qualifying nuptial agreements, which will make prenups and postnups effectively legal contracts that will be strictly enforceable. So the direction of travel is towards more certainty at the end of the marriage, because the government and the courts recognise it's hugely stressful for couples not knowing what would happen if the relationship broke down.
We've had such an interesting response from our listeners, Vanessa. I'll just run through some of these comments and questions. Ella says, I love this postnup conversation. Liam says, heteronormative, radio off. Do you know what? It's such a... No, I think it's a really good point to make. So, within homosexual relationships, you may have children too. That's something that Alice was referring to. One person may be doing more of the unpaid work at home than the other person. This is still entirely relevant, isn't it, Vanessa?
It absolutely is. And I wanted to say to Alice, by way of reassurance, that the law does not discriminate against the homemaker. So if her relationship were to break down and she hadn't done the postnup, the court wouldn't say, well, you're entitled to less financially because you've decided to stay at home. That's a decision you've made between yourselves, and your husband can work more because you're not working so much. So you could certainly build that into a postnup in terms of the provision that you get at the end of the marriage as well.
Stephen says, I don't really understand this issue of money and couples. I earn it, she spends it. It works for us. John says, my late wife and I had a simple approach to money. I gave her all my money. She gave me pocket money back. It worked perfectly. And Jonathan says, you will see divorces shoot up now after encouraging these conversations in married couples. Vanessa, do you have a postnup yourself as a canny family lawyer?
That's a very good question, and I don't have one. And perhaps that's because my resources simply aren't big enough to justify it. But I would like to say that I think they're an entirely constructive thing. And Alice's commentary raises that point, because actually it encourages us to have open and honest conversations. And when we used to have fault-based divorce, one of the issues that was often at the heart of a marriage breaking down was finances. So I think putting stuff on the table and working through the issues via a prenup or a postnup is entirely sensible if you want longevity in your marriage.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon. Vanessa Friend is Head of Family Law at Hodge, Jones and Allen.